Okay, let's call to order the TCAT meeting for October 17th, 2024. I will lead us in the pledge please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You need one? I have one.
We have roll call.
Okay. Committee member Stephenson.
Is not here.
He's excused, though.
Excused. He's excused.
Chair Leamy.
Here.
Committee member Castillo White.
She's excused.
She's excused. Okay. I did not know.
I'll just
Yeah.
take over.
She told you?
She said she was gonna be away at the last meeting.
Okay.
She's got the League of Oregon Cities, yeah.
I'll take it.
Okay.
Committee member Andrews.
Here.
Committee member Knight.
Present.
Committee member Rizzo. She emailed us to let us know that she was sick with the flu and she broke her elbow, so she is not gonna make it. So I will mark excused since she let us know. Committee member Kester. Committee member Hill.
Here.
Committee member Prickett.
Here.
And Vice Chair Allen.
Alan, here. Yes.
All right. Do we have any public comment on non-agenda item? If we do, it'd be Paul.
Yes, thank you, John. It's Paul Wilcox, Troutdale. Actually, I have a public comment on the RFQ, but I wanted to wait until after your discussion. So if you could get back to me later in the meeting, appreciate it.
Okay. All righty. So moving on to the minutes from the September 19th. I have been given some information, some corrections on it.
Yeah, correction.
Okay, so on page 2, first paragraph, it starts out Andrews. We get down to the fourth or the third line, the word tenants. Should have an N in it. And suggestion that Andrews, the apostrophe should be after the S. And then if we go on down to the paragraph where it says Vice Chair Allen, second line reads, agree that more can vetted. The word be should probably go in between can and be. And then if we move on down to the paragraph that starts out Castillo White, the last sentence of that, where it says appeal, for example, at the visitor center, which has a wonderful sense of history, and the word space, the thought is maybe that should be changed to place. Okay. And that was it. Yeah, that was it.
Perfect.
Anybody else? Okay.
I move that we approve the minutes as amended.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. All right, so now we will move on to our discussion. RFQ.
Hey, Marley's gonna kick us off here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, before we start ripping it apart, I just wanted to say this is really well put together again, and you guys did a great job, I think, getting across the points that we are hoping to convey in finding somebody that's like looking at the right thing. So I just wanted to again say that I think this is a really well done. Now on to the criticisms. Suggestions.
Right. Thank you, everyone. I have it displayed on the screen as well, so I'll try to keep us on pages that we're talking about. But I might not always be perfect at that. I wish I could hide that. There we go. So we made some modifications to the document since the last time we met based on your feedback and based on being able to open the InDesign file. So that was, crucial. It's hard for me to share my screen and have my notes up at the same time, but I'll try to remember everything that I made changes to so I can notate them to you. But the first thing you'll notice is the cover looks different, slightly. It had said the Confluence at Troutdale twice. One was with the logo and one was just spelled out. So to remove any redundancy, I just made the logo much larger. And then I also added at the bottom, at the gateway to the Columbia River Gorge, because we've emphasized so many times that that's the real selling, that's a good selling point of the site, and move the city logo down to the bottom near that deadline submission area, which we'll add in once we have those dates. So that's been modified a little bit. The next page, this page needs a little bit of help. I will admit that. This page is supposed to be if you were to open just the first page of this, you'd be able to know a lot of good facts about it. And I felt like it didn't really have the right information in the past, like the previous version that we were working off of wasn't really selling it the way that we wanted to sell it necessarily. And so I started adding some things in and moving some things around, but I have this feeling that the whole page kind of needs to be reworked and redone a little bit differently, and I didn't have the time to fully flesh out what that should necessarily look like, and I do want to circle back with you all and talk about what we think should be on this first page to help us sell it. But some of the things that I did add were the 15 minutes to the Portland International Airport, 20 minutes to downtown Portland, 15 minutes to Multnomah Falls, 45 minutes to Mount Hood, and then I threw in a quick fact right here, which was maybe not worded the best way, but what it's saying is that I was able to look at our visitor data that we have access to, and in 2023, we had 1.7 million non-residents visit Troutdale 11.7 million times, and that resulted in a visitor spending of $85 million. So I felt like that was probably good to put on the front page for us. It's a good selling feature, especially when we're talking about, when we're really wanting to recruit hospitality to the site. I think that looks good for us. So that was one thing I added, but I think we should circle back to this page and sort of talk about what we want it to say, and is this really saying all the things that we want it to say. Moving further along, it's harder to tell what I changed and what I didn't change in this version because nothing's in red. But I put in all the changes that we talked about during the meeting and made sure that it didn't say anything about the neighboring property owner. And anytime we mentioned the trail, we mentioned that it's under construction. I took the map out on page 4. Sorry, I said I was going to move the screen and I haven't moved the screen once. On page 4, you'll remember that previously that was the site plan that you all had asked to remove, and we had talked about putting some like, these are photos that of things that we would like to see, but I didn't necessarily feel comfortable selecting those photos for you. So instead, I chose to put a really scenic photo of Troutdale in its place. If we want to put more inspirational photos in there, I think that's another thing that we could discuss tonight, is where they would fit best. Because I actually don't think that this is the best spot to put those photos necessarily. But we could have, there's other areas where we could do something like that. So for now, it is showing this really pretty photo of the Sandy River that I myself took from a plane with NV Adventures. And I think it does a really good job of showing the urban and rural divide that the Sandy River provides. I'm aware that the link for here does not work, so I'll make sure that link works. I'm sure that was one of Paul's comments. The next 2 pages, one of the other things that I would love to figure out is if there's a way for me to get another page somewhere in here so that the project goals are on the same 2 pages next to each other, because in InDesign they are, but when it prints out, they're not. And so instead of having to flip over to see the rest of that sentence, I'd really like to see the 2 next to each other. So I want to try to figure out a way to fit another page in with some information before that so that we can get those on the same page. But I changed a couple of the photos. So we now have a photo of First Friday instead of the photo of people riding their bikes somewhere up near Mount Hood. And then I put in a photo of people riding their bikes in Troutdale. I don't remember what the other photo was that I took out, but I thought that the First Friday photo showed active, lively gathering, all the sort of things that we've talked about. And then, of course, having a cycling photo in Troutdale is really nice. And then on the next page, the photo that I changed was the historic photo, which was just a photo of that one of those historic Oregon signs that's near the visitor center. And I changed it to a photo that the Historical Society has given us in the past that are of 2 women that are, this was right when I-84 was built. And these 2 women were showing off the sign that Troutdale had put up to entice people to get off the road and take the scenic route. You can see the Bissinger & Co. Woolpullery building in the background and the water tower. So I think it's kind of a fun photo that both plays on our tourist nature and also is showcasing this. I mean, they're literally pointing at the site like, come on, come see our site. So I thought that was kind of a fun little one to throw in there. Let's see. And then some of the other things that we changed out on page 11. Again, here I am not being good scrolling through all of these. Oh, sorry, Diane had texted me letting me know she was not gonna be here. I just saw it. Okay. So on page 11, we had taken some things out, moved a couple of things around, and there was enough space that I could fit in another photo. So I changed the lower photo. It had been a photo, not super great photo from the site. And I changed it to this drone shot that we got from our friend Jared Lyman last year of Troutdale during fall, which I think is a really beautiful shot.
Yeah.
And it also shows the site and the proximity to downtown and also, Broughton Bluff and everything. So that's a new photo. And then we didn't have a lot of bullet points for the incentives, and so I added a photo of the Wayfinder tap room and Highlands food carts, just as a way of stating like they utilized an incentive program that the city had offered. And so this is an example of an existing business that's here, that's successful, that has utilized an incentive that the city has offered. So I thought it was a good tie back to that. Under the city and site, I added a section on history because at the last meeting, we had talked a lot about how we're asking people to, prioritize history and make note of history and tell these stories, but then we don't ever tell the history. And I actually have changed it since this version of it. So I wanted to let you guys know what I put in there that was different. Let's see here. So after the sentence where it says, "It is credited as one of the chief reasons for the city's existence," I actually removed everything in the rest of that paragraph. So I removed all those next lines of that paragraph, and I instead put, "The landscape of Troutdale was forever changed beginning in 1912 with the construction of the Sandy River Bridge and Columbia River Highway. Upon its opening, Troutdale established itself as the western gateway to the highway and began catering to visitors with restaurants, motor lodges, saloons, service stations, roadside stands, and anything else a traveler could want." And then it continues to say, "The two-story Bissinger and Co. Woolpullery building, da, 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 da." So, took out the sentence that says,
When the slaughterhouse.
the slaughterhouse closed and we had an economic downturn for 2 decades, and
Yeah, that-
talked about the highway.
right, more positive look at it.
Yes. Yeah, so talked about how, we started opening a lot of businesses that were catering to those people that were traveling through. So that was the change there. And then on, let's see, page 15, we changed out. Is that, we good? Oh, okay. So then on page 15, we changed out another photo taken from another plane. I think it was just because the other photo was, again, not, like, we had better photos that we did not have the last time we did this. So we changed that out. Then on page 18, we removed one of the cycling photos. We moved one of them over to the other side, and then we removed one of them to be able to put in place the photo from the breaking of the trail. So that is now in there. And let's see. One section that we did not change something to, but I do think we need to figure out a way. So the CoStar data that's referenced on page 20 was data that the consultants we had worked with had pulled for the previous version of this. I don't have access to that data, so I can't pull a new version of that report unless I were to, I don't know, ask them to like pay that. I don't know how I would do that, but short of getting that report new, I haven't figured out how to necessarily change that data, but I think our numbers would be better than in 2022 because things have changed for the better, hopefully. That said, I do think we could put something in this area about the tourism industry and about the visitation data that we do have. So one of my questions to you is whether or not.
Supermoon. Supermoon.
Paul, you're not muted, just so you know. I think that was super moon, full moon tonight. So one of the things we can talk about is whether we think this is worth including here, or maybe we make it, condense it, make it smaller, make it look a little bit different. Whatever we might want to do so that we can fit some more information in here about the visitor data, which I can go over some numbers with you guys today as well on that, so we can make sure we're pulling what you want it to say. And then on page 22, we did change the parking area because that came up a couple of times. So you all had mentioned that because of the CFAC rules, we can't say certain things, or we can't require certain
Can't
things,
require
I should
certain
say. That doesn't stop us from being able to say what we would desire. So we put in there our desired residential parking, minimum. So the number of stalls didn't change, but the wording on the, development standard side did. And then we did get to change the residential parking maximum to say no off-street residential parking maximum, because in looking at the CFAC rules, there isn't one, so.
Not until we hit 25,000, which I don't know if we will ever hit. I mean,
I don't think there's enough, I was about to say, I don't think there's enough room here, but I
I know.
guess they
You
do
never
want us
know,
to
they
go
could
up,
probably
so.
squeeze more people in.
Is that 25,000 parking spaces?
People,
Oh, people. Okay.
yeah. And then in the next couple of pages, from like section 4 on, it's a lot of the like nitty gritty details of this process, and there wasn't a single pretty picture, so I put a couple in, because we had to break it up a little bit, right? So I did include another photo of First Friday, and then, and that's on page 24. And then, there was a sentence that is, I think, currently in here that we did talk with Ray, that we are going to be removing, that basically states the city wants to be paid back this specific way. He said that we could remove that. I can't remember where quite it is yet, but we'll find it when we go through this. And then there's another photo on page 26 of the river that Christopher Kaiser kindly sent us after the ribbon cutting for the Chalk Chalk Trail. And he took that photo, so we have that one in there as well. And then in the selection page, we did move the criteria to match the points. And I just tried to condense things a little bit better, and then I added one final photo on page 30 about the Centennial Arch. Little caption on there. The visitors are greeted with the Centennial Arch. And then we added all of our contact info in there instead of just Ray's, and the destination strategic plan to do additional resources. So that is the summary of the changes that I remember making.
That's great. Good.
I want to say you made some other like small changes that we talked about at the last meeting, like you added the destination strategic plan to the list of documents. We reworded some sentences throughout the document.
I didn't talk about the project and goals page. Yes, we did meet and reword a number of those. I didn't really go over those. Almost all of these read completely differently than how they did the last go around. There were a couple of them where we sat there reading them and we were like, I don't even know what this is actually trying to say. And so we were trying to think about what you all have told us that is important to you, and what we think that was trying to say, and try to word it better so that it's more clear what we're asking from people. But yes, please let us know. I think I see these 2 pages as 2 of the most important pages in this document. One other thing that I do want to note is that in having read through this a number of times, I do feel like there's certain areas of it that are very repetitive. It does say the same thing a number of times, like it mentions the trail and how it's under construction, or it mentions certain things over and over, and so there are some areas that we could maybe be a little bit more concise with our words if we wanted to, but we didn't want to go changing the whole format, so we didn't take those out. But if you all have any opinions about things feeling repetitive, like, let us know.
Yeah, so I would say like, nothing wrong with consolidating a little bit more, but also I don't feel like it's redundant to the point of like having a negative impact in the sense, like, I feel like if anything is kind of hammering home very clearly, like the biggest things, that's the most important, without crossing the line into like, Jesus, we get it, you know? And you know, when it comes down to the changes you made, just to kind of like go back to what I said earlier, like, yeah, I mean, like the picture selections are amazing, like way more on point, but all the rewording that I read through on the project goals and the, also kind of where we were at with the process here for submission requirements under, like vision and plan, I felt like was a lot. The wording on that was much improved and kind of more pointed. I noticed one typo, I think, on the values, within the project goals section there, on the landmark water, it should be tower, I think, instead of town preserved.
What page are you on?
On page 6, second bullet.
Yep, I see it.
And then,
There was another typo I found after the fact as well.
which-
I think it's under the, maybe the history
Okay.
section, but yeah. Sorry,
and then,
Karen.
no, yeah, you're good. And then, I think, I mean, we scrubbed it pretty well when it comes to the plan, the trail, like map pictures, I think, as far as showing it under construction, but I thought I saw one more on the digital folder, but it looks like it's actually not in this version. Oh, there it is, page 13. The picture up at the top, just pointing out, it says future connection with the trail. That's like the one remaining thing I think I saw in there where it's talking about it not being done, just for consistency's sake.
Oh,
At the very top of the map picture there.
yeah, and also, what is the, I wrote over top of this, now I can't see it. What is the Waban Trail? I didn't know that that was what it was
The
called.
levee trail I was referencing, I'm not
Ye-
sure.
Yeah,
I think it's been renamed.
Oh, that's like the chalk.
That's, should,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so,
so just having it, so removing future, just connection with
the chalk trail.
Chalk.
Yeah, maybe, that's,
and 40-mile loop
yeah,
system.
just for consistency's sake, I guess.
Yes, I need to double check that I can, I think that this might be a photo in there,
This is a photo.
so I have to find the original document of it, or I bring it into Photoshop and I just do it right on top of
Yeah,
it,
That's
like
right.
you said,
Exactly, yeah.
That's what I was gonna say.
which I have been known to do, so.
Whatever works.
Yeah, I'll double check all those, because I don't think that I did look at this one too
Yeah.
closely.
But I think everything you guys did in the project goals section really echoed kind of what we were saying. I feel like maybe the only other thing, I mean, honestly, and it's not even like a gripe, like the only other thing that I remember kind of mentioning last time around was kind of having a more pointed objective of maybe having them, like I was kind of saying, having more of like a turnkey kind of recommendations in place, coming in with potential vendors and things like that, but I know, I did see, kind of going back to that, the point on like asking, let's see, under under page 25 and 24, talking about how does what kinds of uses or tenants do you believe are best suited for the site? That was kind of what we had last time, so I guess, if anything, just maybe making more of a suggestion to like come in with potential recommendations on that potentially.
Yeah, the one that we added is at the bottom of page
Yeah.
24 on the left, where it says,
Describe.
describe the businesses of identified or potential
Oh, hey,
anchor
there we go.
tenants for the site.
Okay,
That was the one that we added,
yeah, okay,
and,
perfect.
if that, yeah,
So
let
make
us
up-
know if that wording works for you, if you wanna change that
No,
wording,
that's good, under team
so-
makeup, that makes sense, having
Yeah.
like the partners like we kind of experienced last time, so that makes more sense. I guess it was just, yeah, that's good, okay.
Yeah, and if you do feel like we need to add it in another place, please just let us know. There was something else that we took out of here that I'm
I'm
trying to
thinking
remember
maybe
what it
we move this
was.
one like up. I think if we move it up.
Yeah, we can move that further up in the list.
Could describe them?
Yeah, and we didn't wanna necessarily say like name them, because I think a lot of people would probably be hesitant to name
Sure.
someone. that early on.
But just to kind of
And
have more of an idea of like that.
yeah, or like
types.
who they might
Yeah.
like want as an anchor
Yeah.
tenant, like not even if they have it secured, but who do they
Sure.
envision as
Yeah,
the
exactly.
type of anchor tenant, yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe I changed the word describe, maybe I can even say envision somewhere in there.
Mhm.
Or even add something.
Got it.
Oh, we also did, you had asked for something about the parking, them describing parking, and so we did add a bullet under the vision and plan for the site that says, describe how you will create an efficient parking plan that promotes walkability while recognizing the need for parking. And that was a replacement of a previous one. There was a previous bullet in there that said something like, describe
Didn't make
how
sense.
you're going
I
to.
have it.
Yeah, let's read it, because just to like see how far that bullet point's come.
What page was that?
That was on page 25. That one.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It was, describe how you might incorporate mobility solutions or other transportation ideas into a design proposal that might lessen car dependency within the site and its immediate surroundings. If more direct site and then we got rid of this. If more direct site access is not possible in the near term, what enhancements to the existing right-of-way do you think are most important in order to maximize the site's potential? And then what alternative connections would you prioritize?
It seemed like a really roundabout way of bringing up the hole in the mall.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
just
just sounds more
cut it
clear.
out and then rewrote it to be about the parking and.
A plan for parking.
In a parking plan, recognizing that we do want people to walk around the site and we do want them to walk to downtown and even to the outlet mall and other places. So, how can we make that, how can we recognize those two things? The importance of parking while also the importance of walkability.
A tiny question that
Yeah.
really probably doesn't matter, under submission requirements, page 23. I mean, a smart Tony one, PDFs 8.5 by 11, do you care if it's portrait or landscape? Is it gonna come in and mess up your binders if it's one way or the other? Again, probably a non-essential item.
It's probably not even essential to say 8.5 by 11, because I don't really know who's,
Well, if you wanted to print it and somehow
Making
distribute it, you might have,
PDFs in that
11 by
size,
17s
but-
coming out or something that's
yeah.
strange.
I mean, I
Just-
think
just a
most
question.
people are probably gonna do it in an 8.5 by 11 format.
Yeah,
And I think we're okay by not clarifying that, just since the 8.5
sure.
comes first, but I think that is good to know, yeah. And honestly, I don't even know that if they had included a plan that was 11 by 17, I think in the other ones, they might have included some of the site plans in 11 by 17s.
Probably will.
We're not gonna throw it out on that, so I'm almost like, we don't even need to say that necessarily, but we can leave it in, just for the sake of it, I guess.
It only matters if you're gonna, if you know you have to use it in a certain way later.
Mm-hmm.
Thing.
We do have them limiting their submission to 15 pages.
So that's, for readability and to be able to comprehend what they're trying to say,
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense to put a limit on it, but we're giving them nearly 30 pages of questions, right?
great point.
But if they do 15, 11, and 17, so we get a lot
There you
more
go.
And we did
Double
clarify that we
sided.
want some pretty pictures, and pretty pictures take up some room,
Yeah,
so.
that's true, that's true.
Yeah, so,
Well, it's more
Great
visual,
point.
I mean, people are, if you're looking at something like an application, you don't wanna look at a blank page with a bunch of words on it. So pictures help kind of give them the, like, they're really interested in
Yeah.
what we want.
absolutely. Yeah, I think it is interesting, I mean, I understand why you'd not wanna read like a 500-page document necessarily, but I also don't know that it's necessary to be like hard and fast on 15 pages or else, you know?
How many pages were in,
Couldn't tell you. The
there
other
was more than
ones?
15,
It was.
I don't know.
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you expect a lot of submissions? Are we talking 2 or 3 or 17?
We got 4 last time,
So this packet is 30 pages, and this isn't too much to read through.
right?
That's just, personally, I think 15 might be too limiting, but that's,
I mean, I think that's something fair for us to consider, is if that's gonna limit a
Who's gonna-
response that we
yeah.
might get, especially if we're asking for more details. And I truly don't remember how long the previous ones were, and if they surpassed that, or if we ever graded them on their page number.
get up
So,
there.
if you guys want to remove that, I think we could, or if you wanna keep it, I don't think.
So,
I would remove it personally.
Yeah.
I just think that's limiting, and if somebody wants to put, 18 pages or 23 pages, I don't care. It's just a few more pages for us to go through, it doesn't matter.
So do you wanna delete, you said delete that?
Not
Yeah.
to take it out,
Okay,
not to have the limited to 15 pages.
now if you get something with 200 pages, now it's overkill, so
Well,
I was
I
just saying
wouldn't do
15's,
that.
I was just saying 15's too limited, and maybe a higher number would be worthwhile, but
I
whatever.
don't know, what would that number be though?
Less than 50 pages or less than 30 or,
yeah, I think one of the things
it's kind of
that,
arbitrary.
yeah, one of the risks I think we run into is if we raise it, then someone feels like they have to hit that
Yeah.
number.
Right, so
Yeah,
just
that's
leaving it out, they can.
I think if we leave it out, then it's just, give us what you've got,
Right.
Sure.
Right,
and if someone
didn't
gives a
have-
lot of details and really, it kinda tells you how interested someone might
We
be in
didn't
it
do
too.
it last time, did we? Did we put a limit on
It said this, I don't think we changed that.
We did not change
I don't know that we
this,
held
yeah.
anyone to it
it?
though.
Oh, interesting.
So we can certainly
I'm sure that.
eliminate that. I think it's common standard language in our, it's pretty just like, just a generic thing that goes in there.
No less than 1 page.
Yeah, but I'm fine taking it out because it also will tell you, if someone submits a 2-page submission,
Tell
really not interested.
right? So if you guys wanna remove it, I'm totally fine removing that.
I would.
I would.
yeah.
Deleted.
Now, question I had is on the parking, so the desired parking is 2 per residential unit. I know the law is like 1 or 1.6 or whatever it is, isn't it? Isn't that what?
I think that depends on which,
Yeah.
if you're referring to CFEC or if you're referring to like the city of Troutdale, what our current code says. Or
Yes,
what it
so
used to
this,
say.
so this is our current Troutdale
This is
code.
our, okay,
Yeah, so our current Troutdale code is what we desire.
Yes. And when it says 2 per residential unit, that means with no commercial associated with it. So that would mean for a townhouse or for an apartment building that has no commercial anything associated with it. For the mixed use buildings, it's 1 unit or 1 space per residential unit when it's part of mixed use. And I think that it's written that way just because the city wanted to see more mixed use buildings versus seeing a purely apartment purely
Right,
residential
right.
apartment building. So they incentivize the mixed use building over the other style of building.
I guess what I'm looking at is, I'm sure it has something, well, somewhat to do with this is, I am very nervous when I come downtown to park, or come downtown to get out of town. Because even going into here, you've got people crossing the
Yeah.
street, you've got people not minding the traffic that, the driver that's coming in, and I mean, to me, it just looks like we're another port. That we're no longer the little city that once was 20 years ago, we're just not. And my concern is, with home. Forward, coming in, what that's gonna look like is probably gonna be what this looks like. And then what do we want down there? And so I'm just concerned with all the traffic.
Well, and-
Parking,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah, I think it's, the the challenge of parking.
Well, and it's amazing because when we were coming here last year, there wasn't hardly anybody parking on the street. Once that opened up over there, it's usually down on that street because there's a business there. But once that opened up, we have a horse trailer parked over here with a truck.
And I've almost hit people coming down the street when it's dark and they wear dark clothes and they
Yeah.
shoot out of their car. You don't see them. And
It's a
So,
safety issue.
it's just a safety issue, so that's why I come.
Mhm.
Because I'm just concerned about safety.
Yeah, no, absolutely, we're limited in what we can require, as you know. But it is our property, so we do get to select who we work with, and we do get to review the site, you know, we do have these other sort of things where we still hold that control in ways that we don't necessarily with other properties, you know? So we still get more say in that aspect of it because we currently hold the property and get to, you know, make those sort of requirements in that way. I think it's really good to put your desired parking in here, even if we like don't have the parking requirement, to at least tell them this is what we're looking for. I think it further emphasizes that this is important and that, you know, there aren't side streets adjacent to this. No one's parking on the interstate or in the river or on the railroad, so, you know, they've gotta figure out a way to have enough parking on site for all of the uses. Cause there's nowhere for it to spill over, other than maybe the outlet mall, but if someone wants to walk all the way around the outlet mall just to get through, I mean, that's a commitment.
Yeah.
So, I hear your concern, and I think that this is a good way of us expressing that to them, is, you know, asking them in their submission to tell us what their parking plan is, and also stating what our desired parking is, even though we can't, you know, even though it's not in the development code necessarily, so.
And another thing too is we talk about misuse. You know, like when I go down to like Gresham and I see the apartments on top and businesses down below, there's no businesses down below. When I've gone to some places in Portland, there's no businesses down below. They're just, people aren't moving in. So do you think that's gonna be an issue down here?
That's a good question. I think that we heard, when we had that meeting with Wood Partners, they did talk about how it's harder to fill commercial spaces that are part of a mixed-use building versus, you know, a standalone commercial space that can be, primarily I think it's out of that space being able to be more designed for the commercial user instead of being
Blank one.
this like almost like an afterthought that's just at the bottom of a residential building. A lot of times I feel like in a mixed use building, a lot of the emphasis is put on the residential because, you know, that's what you get the return on, and the commercial is just, oh, we'll just throw some commercial down there, and it's not designed for that user in mind. Whereas with the standalone commercial, you know, the brewery can have the really tall ceilings so that it can, you know, all these sort of things that you can fit that use in there, and it can be custom designed for it. So yeah, I do think that it could potentially be a concern. We did take out the reference to the live work units in here because in the past it had talked about live work, and you all had mentioned that what you don't like about Gresham Station are the vacant live work units. So we did, I think, remove all the references to live work. Some of the places in Fairview are another example of live work that aren't really.
Well, and there's one on Stark Street that's been vacant since the first, when mixed use first came in. They started it but didn't finish it. They finished it, but it's still not finished. And there's no parking lot, but the building's there, and they've done a lot to the building, but there's nothing. There's no
Yeah.
interest in it.
Yeah.
And that's part of why, I think it'd be, again, like mentioning kind of some of the, coming in with some of the business ideas in play, I think was a huge move that we had seen previously, just because, again, if you have a community that's kind of like ready-made, it makes it easier for those businesses to thrive and survive. I also think it has a large part to do with the area, so I mean, like, a lot of those stretches that you see empty are on kind of like random stretches of road versus like a little hub of activity, so, I mean, hopefully, obviously, we wouldn't have that issue, but also I do wonder if that means like, you know, we can play a little bit more with, I mean, it doesn't, you know, maybe it has to do with developmental codes when it comes to what the heights of certain levels have to be, probably, but it like makes me think like, okay, well, can we just raise that up so it is primarily, and maybe have less residential above, but still some or something, you know, like just kind of change ratios around. But like, it is a valid concern, I think, as well, and a risk taking with, you know, that kind of thing.
But we also have the visitors coming in that they don't have at Gresham Station. We're gonna have like the trail, and we have the First Friday, and so it's gonna be a continuation. That I see more, getting more of the mixed use in that respect, because it's gonna be, people are gonna wanna go down that area, and they're gonna go, oh, there's a shop here, I'm gonna stop here.
Ideally, yeah, and like, on that like connectivity note and the parking note, just to kind of revisit a discussion we had in the past. I remember when, I think it was like, David, I think was the community development director. Bernicker, that's right. So he was talking about parking structures and stuff like that. And I know we have kind of floated the idea of maybe a parking structure that also has some kind of connectivity to downtown. That way people can park and it's easier for people to get to downtown. It has a better connection there and it solves a parking problem and it's right by the railway because nobody's gonna want to be buttoned up against it anyway. And I know there's obviously some Western Union, you know, pushback with anything we do, near the railway or over or under or anything, but is that still something that is potentially viable and we could also potentially get like bigger grants for it because it's technically, especially if it's like a ride and drive sort of, okay?
Yeah, that's definitely something that's still, I think we do make reference to it in here as well about desiring that. I think under, there's a section on incentives that says like, you know, if you propose helping us with this, you know, we're more willing to give you other things. We could try to come up with some more ways to emphasize that, but I do think also under project goals, I believe it's in there. Maybe it's not, maybe I need to add it under project goals. Oh, no, it is. Support in the design and construction of a private, public, or public-private, however you want to word it, parking garage that serves transit to local attractions in the Gorge and Mount Hood through a park and ride facility, in addition to parking that supports the Confluence in downtown.
Okay.
So we don't like
That's fine,
Yeah.
as long
get
as,
super, like, it must be here and it must do
but
this, but
hopefully it kind of
yeah.
spurs that sort of thinking, yeah.
that is the desire.
Okay.
We've been holding off on any sort of planning efforts on that though until we get the first thing we're asking
Yeah,
for.
sure. And then I just have one other follow-up question on your one pager.
Yes.
On the 1.7 million non-residents visited blurb that you added in there, I was just curious where the data, how you like track that data.
Yeah, so I should probably cite data when I put it in there, but we have a service that's called Placer AI. It's a visitation data tracking thing.
Yeah.
It uses cell phone ping data, so it can actually tell, there's a lot of things that we can't see on our end, like we don't know any details about necessarily like whose phone it is, or it's all that sort of stuff is scrubbed before we ever see any of it. But it does use cell phone ping data to know basically where people live and where they go and what they do and where they're from and everything, and so we know, I pulled that number by running a report essentially on the whole city of Troutdale, not just on downtown Troutdale. So in the past, when I've done these reports, I've wanted to look specifically like who is visiting downtown Troutdale. And when I talk about visitors to downtown Troutdale, those could be Troutdale residents because I'm only looking at this little section. That report that I did was the whole city of Troutdale. So it wouldn't, you guys aren't included in this number. because it knows your residents of Troutdale.
So it could be people coming in from out of town to like go to the Google or the grocery store, or literally anything, just spending money here
Yep.
outside from out of town, that's cool.
Yep, and the visitor spend, so we know they spent $85 million.
Wow,
Because it knows what credit card transactions are not from the city of Troutdale.
sure, yeah, I guess that makes sense, that it's kind of freaky, but yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
if you start- But again, I
If
mean,
corporations are gonna use this, we might as well to like, you know,
I mean,
attract people to our town
yeah,
too, right?
it's all out there, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, no, it is, it's really fascinating information. Sometimes it's so fascinating and so, just like, kind of crazy to look at that it's hard to like take it and then be like, okay, this would be useful in this way, or this application, like, it doesn't always like come out in like this pretty little report that just like, right off the bat makes sense. You have to sort of take pieces of it, you know, and like, there's so many interesting things that it can tell you. I mean, there's like heat maps in there that'll tell you what road people most frequently use to get to Troutdale, and
I love that.
I mean, all
Play
sorts of
SimCity
things.
That's good.
A lot of you are on the Parks committee as well, but I have put the shape files for all of our city parks in there too, so I could tell you what our most visited parks are, or, you know, are Troutdale residents visiting this park, or are Portland residents visiting this park?
Ooh, that would be neat.
Yeah.
With some of the smaller visited parks, it doesn't necessarily have good information, but Glen Otto, I can
Yeah.
pull lots of details. Sunrise Park, you know, that's a much visited one. So anyways, it is very fascinating.
It is.
That's where it's coming from.
Great.
I really wanna say more about that though, like in that section where we start to talk about on page 20, I feel like that's where I could be putting more of that data. And it's just hard to figure out just the right way to show it, or like what exactly you wanna say that says the best thing, especially when you've got so many different data points. Yeah, I mean, we could, we have a new placer rep now, so, different one, again. But yeah, I put that one in there because I thought that was pretty fascinating, and,
Well, it gives them an overview
Yeah.
of how many people
and
actually
actually,
visit here.
right, and I actually do wanna make sure
I think
that
that's a good one.
this report's gonna go out in 2024. I wanna include 2024 numbers and not 2023 numbers, and that I know I'll be able to get, it's just I don't have them right now, so I wanna change that because we have seen more people in Troutdale in 2024 than in 2023, so I know that those numbers are gonna be better. But yeah, I just think that that's really, really telling, part of it, and so many of those visitors are coming off I-84, I mean, they're gonna be right there, they're gonna see that development that's right there, so I
Yeah,
think that
that's great.
it's a really great, thing to include in there.
It's interesting how many people use 257 compared to how many people use I-84. Because I-84 is, you would think it'd
Oh,
be
those numbers up there, yeah.
substantially higher, or the 257th would be lower.
And that's a great, thing to bring up as well, so those were numbers that the previous version of this had as well.
Right.
So I did not update these numbers, and now that I'm looking at this and we're talking about where does the information come from, I don't know where those numbers come
Right.
from.
But you could probably find out, or figure it out.
I probably could. I'm just gonna figure out where they got that from, and I wonder if I could get it in Placer too, since they do have the. So I've got a couple of data points that I'm gonna need to try to see if we can figure out how to update with some updated numbers.
And on this 1.7, 11.7, so if I live in Sandy and I do my shopping at Safeway,
You are a visitor in
You're a
Troutdale.
visitor in
A
Troutdale, you're
visitor.
spending money in
so
Troutdale.
that's 52 trips a year, right there.
Yeah,
So
well,
that's really
I
not
mean,
visitors, that's out.
Well, they are, they're non-resident,
Well,
and they're visiting, I
but they're
mean,
not.
I go to
They're
Sandy
not
and-
tourists type.
they're not necessarily tourists, but it's dollars from outside of the city that
Right.
are coming into the city, which is important for people. It's easy to run reports on, you know, okay, there's 16,000 people that live in this town, that means that they're gonna be spending this much money on groceries every year, which means that if I were to try to attract a grocery store operator, you know, this is the market share that this community has. But what this is saying is, this is our market share that's coming from outside of the community. So this is the people that are, whose dollars are coming into the city from outside of the city. And I think that it is pretty interesting to see that 1.7 million people are visiting 11.7 million times, which means that someone's coming back. People, the same people, they're coming back. So part of this isn't really telling necessarily the tourist story, but it is telling a story that people return. And I think that that's also really important. This could be someone in Gresham who comes for every single, like once a month, they come down and they, you know, get dinner in downtown Troutdale or some, you know, so it's saying that people aren't just visiting this as like the Multnomah Falls, where they see it once and then they go off to Pennsylvania and never come back again, or wherever. But this is, we have people from outside of our city who want to keep coming to our city repeatedly. And I think that that is telling a good story in addition to, you know, the tourists too, because it means that we're really drawing the other communities in East Multnomah County. They're coming here and they see Troutdale as a good place to frequent.
Totally. And if they forget their cell phone, they don't get counted.
Either that or they really like our gas stations. That could also be in there too. The gas stations are part of that visitor spend, so.
And people come out here to walk their dogs.
Yep.
Honestly, the more, I mean, it's just gonna keep improving. Sorry, this is Zach. I mean, we just talked in our Parks Committee meeting last night about, budgeting for like the Beaver Creek Bridge completion and thinking about, again, like creating more destination, like hiking spots and,
Yeah.
I mean, for outdoor stuff and in addition to obviously, the commercial aspect of things, like, yeah, it's just gonna keep improving. We have so many spots coming up downtown. Yeah, it's definitely, it's all coming together, so.
Yeah.
It's not been without a lot of
Yeah.
work, so.
And it's funny that you bring that up because we have some new visitor center greeters that we've been touring around Troutdale and around the gorge the past 2 days, so that they're familiar with all the businesses, where things are. And I had driven them down to see where the new pickleball gym was gonna be, because I know that that's gonna be another thing that's gonna draw to a different part of Troutdale
Yeah.
than where we all expect, you know? And we were driving back, like you keep going on Troutdale Road and then what is it, Cochrane Road, or
Right.
where you cut over? And we crossed over Beaver Creek and I made a comment about how there's some really great trails in Beaver Creek, but you know, tourists don't know about that. They're not gonna know about that. And we're not gonna promote that until the Beaver Creek Bridge gets fixed. But how I could see in the future that we have a trail map that talks about all the different trails that are so close to here that, you know, it doesn't just have to be Troutdale city limits. It can be the Chalk Trail, it can be Sand River Delta, it can be the Beaver Creek, it can be, you know, we have all these trails and these natural amenities that are near us that I can see a lot of people wanting to go out and do those things as well. And that being a huge amenity gives you more things to do when you come visit. You don't just it's not just like a one day
Yeah.
and you can see it all. There's more things to do, which is nice.
We do have a trails map, it's just not like narrated. I was looking
Yeah.
at it the other day and I was thinking the same thing.
Actually, if you look very closely at that trails map though, I am not so sure all those are
They're
trails.
not, they're not. We,
I looked at those and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
that is questionable.
I pulled it up in our, not this, but the last Parks meeting on the Esri overlay for the
Yeah.
GIS thing, and they definitely are not, but
Yeah.
Jonah was saying that he is having, basically, we're supposed to somehow get access to at least partaking in the layers aspect of it, to where we can, because we basically came up with a hypothetical trail that goes all the way from Stark down by the college park there, using existing trails and offside paths, like going all the way up to Depot and beyond. So like we have a long solid trail, and that's part of like what the community wants, is basically better connectivity to the river, better connectivity around town. So if we have like the official paths and things like that, where we can start putting our recreation programs on having their walks take place in town instead of in the industrial park like they have been, or, you know, places like that, then like that's also gonna be a huge driver of just community, so.
Yeah, and it'll especially be helpful if we can get signs for those, because, you know,
Exactly.
if we have the identified trail
Mm-hmm.
and someone can follow the signs to be able to get to those places,
Exactly.
I think that's gonna be really important. And, you know, wayfinding is, we talk a lot about the wayfinding for drivers of cars, but wayfinding for people who are
Bikes and
walking and
Mhm.
cycling is also really, really important,
Totally.
especially when you wanna have those trail connections.
Yeah.
And the trail map is something Kevin and I have looked at in the past, and that's when we were like, he was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know you could take this trail along Beaver Creek, and I was like, wow, maybe use that in someone's backyard. It was something like, it went up Jackson Park Road, and I was like, that's a private drive
Yeah.
to someone's house, that's not a trail. But yeah, having improved maps that show those sort of trails and it's a lot of work to make those maps. It's not like super easy stuff, especially when your layers are saying, yeah, follow this, and that's not actually reality. But yeah, that's a good thing to note.
I just brought up page 10, under standard purchase of sale. That first sentence does not make sense. The city is open to a variety of possible deal structures, is that supposed to be ideal?
No, it's supposed to be deal.
We could like change it to like financial or
Well,
something.
There's a whole chapter
But
that's
it
called
says,
deal structures.
yeah, it says deal
so-
structures
Oh,
back
does it
here.
say deal
is it?
structures?
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Oh, yeah, deal structures and financial partnerships.
yeah, I think it
makes
just
sense.
means
Okay,
like the deal, like deal or no deal.
okay, got it.
Actually, we're just hosting Deal or No Deal, like everyone just sign up in town. That's our next big event.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I think that's what it's trying to say, but we could be, you know, I think it'll make sense to developers.
Okay.
Even if it doesn't necessarily like read perfectly well for us, I think it will make sense to them.
Okay.
That said, that is the section that I need to change the last sentence. It says, if the full 15.89 acres are sold to a private party, proceeds from the sale must be immediately applied in one lump sum to pay off the city's financial obligations. I asked Ray, and he said, take it out. He doesn't want it to say that.
He doesn't want that at all.
Take that out, the
Yeah.
proceeds on, and put period after party.
Yep, after urban renewal plan, yep. Yeah, he was basically saying, you know, I think there were when we went through this before, the loans balloon payment hadn't been, we still had time. It was like, you know, we wanna get this done before this time, and then this amount of money is gonna be due, and those situations have changed. And so now the city is stating that like, that's not the priority the same way it was the priority. And he was especially mentioning that people might wanna come in and do it in phasing, and so they might not wanna pay, you know, they might wanna pay for things in phases too. And so we don't really wanna back ourselves into a corner on that point if it's not the priority, the same way it was the priority, so.
I have two suggestions, small suggestions, mostly grammar and punctuation. Page 5, project goals, left-hand side, fourth bullet point down. We got for small business experimentation and growth and community events and programming. Maybe put a comma after growth and then maybe as well as community events and programming. And then the second one, which kind of confused me for a minute, was on page 13, the bottom of the first paragraph, where it talks about the Confluence action plan and where those things are featured. It reads, an overview of the two concepts is featured in the Confluence action plan on page 18. I guess my initial thought was to turn to page 18 and look for that. But maybe it should be the concept is featured on page 18 in the Confluence action plan.
Page 18
So
doesn't
page-
have,
I think it's supposed to read, it's in the Confluence Action Plan on page 18 of the, in the Confluence Action Plan. Where to me it reads that I can look at the Confluence Action Plan on page 18 of this document.
yeah, but page 18 doesn't even reference the Confluence action.
I think what it's supposed to say is, an overview of the concepts is featured on page 18
On
of
page,
the
yeah.
Confluence Action Plan.
Oh, okay, yeah, you had to read it like 4 times for me to even get to it. I still was like, it's not there.
Yep,
Overview
got it.
on page
On page 18 of the,
Yes, thank you, that is very good change.
Let's see what Paul has to say.
Yeah, sure.
Paul, are you still there?
Oh, yeah, thanks, John. Oh, okay, what I was gonna comment on is something that was actually removed. And Marley covered it early in the presentation and review, actually, it's on page 4, I think. And what it was the sample site plan. And I thought I was extremely pleased to see that gone, because I thought it was way too suggestive as to what someone might see as what you were looking for, with buildings laid out, and they might just, want to tweak what they were seeing on that drawing. So
Okay.
that was mainly my comment, that I'm glad to see that's gone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, to note, I did just realize where the other typo is, and it is on that photo, so I am surprised that that didn't get brought up, but it says divising instead of dividing, so.
Oh,
That was the other typo that I caught the other day, so.
Well, words kind of blend together when you're reading it over.
Yeah, and InDesign doesn't do spell check for you, so
Yeah.
I don't know why that is, but.
yes.
Yeah, thank you. This is Zach. Just a couple other quick thoughts too. I know I talked with you guys briefly about it, but, and I don't know if you guys have ever been to, what was the place in Eugene that you were talking about with like the indoor market?
oh, like Fifth Street Public Market.
Yeah, Fifth Street Public Market in Eugene, or like Chelsea Market in New York, but they make a really good use of, like, it's like a destination, like, indoor market where you kind of go from one side to the other, and it's like industrial, so it like gives nods to what it was used for, like they're on the waterfront, or like as a previous industrial use and that sort of thing. But there's like, boutique shops, there's other
Boutique
bigger
hotel,
stores, yeah,
restaurants.
hotels hooked up to like the elevator right above it, or restaurants in there, food courts even, that kind of thing. So it might benefit us again to maybe give kind of a nod to think about these things, whether it's like, and I'm coming from the place of, I guess, like, we all know how this place gets in the winter with just like wind and, storms and that kind of thing. So thinking about like, how are we gonna keep business moving along the river when it's not really nice to be outside in the plaza, right? So maybe, even if it's something as little as like in the project goals, like talking about additive and complementary uses that strengthen the commercial vitality of existing downtown businesses and support a connected, walkable community, throughout all the seasons or something like that, just to kind of give like a lens of, right, it's gonna be shitty, so like how are we going to, excuse my language, but it's going to
They'll
be
put that
like,
in the minutes.
how are we gonna keep these businesses moving, how are we gonna keep it walkable, how are we gonna keep people walking around when nobody wants to be outside, you know, in addition to having the external components of it, so,
Great
that,
comment.
yeah, so that was, one thing, and then, I appreciated the fact that you guys made a reference to rooftop spaces, I think that's huge, just kind of giving a nod to that, taking advantage of that space, and then, oh, this was the other one. I noticed this picture you selected, that I think was there before, the Peloton apartments and townhomes in Portland. But just kind of thinking about our unique standpoint in the river and the water and just kind of some of those elements. I grew up going to Victoria Gardens down in Southern California, which is like an outdoor shopping mall, basically. But I don't remember half the shops I went to, but what I do remember is walking around and then just there being like canals like everywhere. It was just a really like unique space to walk around when they have like on either side by these storefronts, like a canal of water going in between it. So, you know, looking at these apartments, I also work on the downtown waterfront, south waterfront there on downtown. And I think, you know, again, striking the balance between obviously not wanting to be like Portland, like there's, you know, there's concern, but also like bringing in like a more green and sustainable and like, you know, stylish living arrangement. There might be some way for us to kind of fit in some more wording when it comes to like kind of bringing those elements into the design phase of like focusing on the water, focusing on some kind of unique, you know, approach to that. And, you know, seeing a lot of those, I guess the point I'm getting at is seeing a lot of those like residential units, and I've taken pictures of it walking because I've knowing kind of where we're going with this, seeing like how they have almost recessed divisions in front of these places with bridges over, water gardens sort of thing, like just like a very more like focused kind of vibe when it comes to, you know, something unique that you can't really necessarily find anywhere else, so.
If you have any particularly good
Yeah,
photos that you've taken,
sure, I'll take
feel
them.
free
I'll send them
to
to you. I have
send
them
them
on my
to
phone,
us,
yeah.
'cause, yeah. So do you think we should change out this Peloton apartments
Yeah, maybe just with
building?
one like that, that's a little bit more geared towards kind of like water
Yeah.
and still along the same lines, but it is right on the waterfront there too, so they've kind of taken some of those elements that I really like, and like vertical rain gardens and just really beautiful areas to walk around, even if it's a residential zone like that. It's something that I try and take a walk on my lunch and go down there, so.
Yeah, and I'm also thinking that on page 7, the photo, I mean, I think it's a Google Street View photo for the Hood River waterfront, and so, we can-
get a better one.
well, and also maybe we can get 2, like some of these places where we've got longer
Sure,
photos, maybe we can
sure.
do 2. And then what's nice is we could maybe like even add a caption that says something like what we like about that photo, like if we did include a photo of the South Waterfront
Yeah.
or Victoria Gardens,
Yeah.
and say like the use of like water features
Yeah.
in the design
Sure.
is a nice way of incorporating the river throughout,
Yeah.
you know, or
Yeah, yeah,
something like
exactly,
that, where it's
exactly.
like pointing out what specific thing it is in that photo that we like. Cause I think that will be helpful for people. And I'm gonna add a bullet in the goals section about the design considerations for seasonality, because this page needed more anyways, so that's a good extra bullet to throw in there.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I like that suggestion a lot.
This is Shirley. Walt Moore's brand, for example, does a rain garden.
Who?
Walt Moore has a rain garden behind their school, so any rain that comes off the building goes into that rain garden, and
Yeah.
it does build up. And it actually attracts wildlife. But they also, but it's dry most of the year, but it does change seasonally.
So maybe we've got 2 bullets to talk about like holistically approached site building design, and then the maximizing onsite energy production. Maybe something in that we can talk
Yeah.
about, like rain gardens,
Yeah.
bios, you know,
Right.
like.
Because
Some
that would help with all
specifics.
that. it would help alleviate a lot of the, water runoff too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, use it to our strengths, right?
Mm-hmm. We can add something in there.
Then, I mean, this is Carol, so I really liked the changes, but page 20
Yeah,
is just odd.
Yeah.
There's something
Yeah.
about that page that's just,
yeah, we're gonna add some more data specific to Troutdale to that page.
Yeah.
it's just, I don't know what it is, it's just,
It-
I
it looks-
love seeing this information here, because it kind of, I love graphs, but it's just some things just not popping.
It needs a
We agree.
little, something, yeah.
Yeah, and well, and I don't like the orientation, I don't know why it stops like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that and see if there's some improvements that can be made, and yeah, I do wanna include more of the visitation data, beef it up a little bit. Definitely, I'm just looking to see if there's any, how we can move stuff around too.
Then Zach, you were saying, where was it in Eugene?
Fifth Street Public Market,
What's it called?
Fifth Street
Fifth
Public Market.
Street.
This is true,
Has
that
this-
would also alleviate food to a point where people don't have to go drive somewhere, it'd be, more people wanna drive there than. So it kind of fills that grocery,
Oh, yeah. That's nice.
like a farmer's market type.
Yeah. Year-round market
Yeah.
spaces that
Yes.
are covered market spaces. The town I actually grew up in is doing it like a huge new market space, multi-million-dollar project, that's like the whole thing that the city is focused on right now, and so I'm kind of been following that to see what design they end up with and what that ends up looking like. But yeah, I think that the markets are great, and I think that can also play on the history of Troutdale too. I mean, it was a
Right.
farming town, and there's all these farms, the celery market, that's where the celery farm, whatever we wanna call it, but I think that does, I can also tell stories, even if it's not an old building. We had a conversation about this, about how, Troutdale's burned down like 3 or 4 separate times. So a lot of those old buildings don't exist anymore, but that doesn't mean that the stories can't still be told through the buildings that we do decide to build and the signage that we do have and all these other elements. And so we can tell these stories in these spaces in different ways, even if the buildings aren't there anymore.
Yeah, so Fifth Street Public Market, it was a chicken farm, that's where they killed all the poultry, and they have a fountain down in the courtyard area, and it has like a large rooster, like on top, kind of telling the story.
So we'll have a sheep right next to a celery stalk with like a gladiola coming out of it.
With the fish with,
Oh yeah, fish
The carp,
jumping over it
remember?
all, yes, that is necessary. A carp jumping over it
Oh,
all.
I love it, I love that idea already.
That's actually, that's the new city seal, it's gonna be those elements.
I mean, cause originally it was supposed to be carp, not trout, so
Cartdale.
Carpdale.
This is Zach, the town I grew up in is called Redlands, they call it the gem of the Inland Empire now, but I mean, it's just a small town, but it was basically like the orange packing capital of the West Coast. So they've really leaned into all that too, so I mean, I can actually probably get some more material and photos and stuff for you guys as well, but they have districts like Packing House District and stuff that had, there's this place, it was a skate park I used to go to when I was a kid called the Brickyard, and it basically was right on the railroad, and it was had loading docks and stuff along the back, but they repurposed it into a skate park, and it's now like a shopping hub and stuff like that too, but the more that they've done, they've really continued expanding that kind of industrial chic,
Yeah.
orange you know, packing vibe and stuff like that, so I think there's definitely a right way to do it and make it like unique to the
Yeah.
city.
Yeah, and we've talked about the design standards too, and circling back to those and whatnot, and I do think it would be really interesting how that site was the industrial part of town. I mean, forever,
Yep.
until Reynolds and the, you know, all of those other elements, but like that was the industry for town, and how we could play into that, like even though the buildings don't exist anymore, the architecture that we might ask for could play into, it could look like old industrial buildings that would have been there that have now been turned into lofts or, you know, whatever it might, you know, we could do whatever we wanna do, it's not there anymore, but we can,
Give a
Some little
nod to
statues
that.
of sheep.
yeah.
Obviously.
Oh, we could, little brown sheep everywhere.
yes.
It could be like Camus has the little birds that you go find, we could have little sheep.
I know.
Counting sheep! Okay, sorry, I'm getting really into it now.
Well, kind of along that topic, I don't wanna get too far off what we're doing here tonight, but kind of along that, but then also kind of go along with what you were saying about maximizing the weather and then creating it interesting. Maybe it's starting to come out, maybe it hasn't, but like that, where like, Grants Pass has their bears everywhere, where you can go find things. What if we had something where we had wind-powered kinetic art sculptures? And those were placed around town in different places. And then maybe even something to the point where, like on the windiest worst day, this special event happens, or something only happens when it gets really, really windy, and like, oh, you gotta go see it. And like something that draws people here when it's windy, potentially even something where there is some sort of, you know, anemometer, not that, a windmill that powers maybe lighting up the tower. You know, really tie in the whole wind idea, and like, gosh, when it is crappy, you do gotta go to Troutdale, because that's where you wanna be.
Yeah,
And that is expensive with artists, but there's some amazing kinetic wind art out there. And you could even have Troutdale branded little things you could buy at the Troutdale Depot store to take home and put in your yard that like spins, you know, stuff like that.
yeah,
Where you really create wind is the thing that like, man, you do gotta go to Troutdale when it's windy and cold.
I love that.
This is Zach, just to piggyback, I love that. We literally just talked about that in our parks meeting last night. That was one of the big things I talked about for budget items, was like kinetic art, especially for that reason. So like, I love that idea. I think we're definitely gonna be pursuing it through parks. We have that riverfront park right there, which is the newest one going in, and that was what we kind of talked about being like, without, you know, shit ruffling too many feathers of like existing parks, like a perfect spot to start that. So yeah,
I'd be
love that
interested in
vein, for sure.
conversation, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, and they also have the, Washington have what they call the troll, looking for the troll.
Yeah, the Fremont Troll.
And,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it works because everybody wants to get their picture taken
Yeah.
with
Yeah,
the troll.
sure.
Yeah, it's like the roadside attractions, you know.
Right, like the big
Having
ball of yarn.
The
you
world's
know.
largest ball of yarn, which
Right.
by the way is a statue.
Or hole in the ground in eastern Oregon. It's called hole in the ground, that's what it is, just a hole in ground.
Yeah.
You drive down
I've been
there and
there.
it's a hole.
There's an Airbnb you can stay at in Idaho that's a giant potato. There, you know, there's all sorts of these fun little things, and those things are great. They are really great at driving attraction. That is why Fairview did the fork, and you know, just trying to have that thing. But wind has come up a number of times, and kinetic art, and I think that is something that could be really cool. I just leaned over to Erica and said, what if we put a wind kinetic thing on the water tower? Like,
I mean,
it's
like
right,
you're saying,
it's all the way
that's
up
like
there, like,
that's the ultimate
put something
one.
all the way up there that, you know, I think that that's a really cool idea to like think of all these different things that we can continue to tell the story in other ways, and in just like little nods to it here and there.
It's like the elk on the building. It's part of Troutdale. I like it when I come down because I know I'm in Troutdale because the elk is standing right there.
I like that it's still lit up so that when you
Yeah.
drive by at night, you can see
Still
it.
see it.
And there was one time when I was driving in Troutdale and there was a full moon, and the moon was right in between the elk, and I was like, what I would do for my camera right now to take this photo, like, this is great. But it just has to live in my mind instead.
Well, and all that, this Carol brings up the scavenger hunt they did with the cat down in Portland. You know, try to find these different cats all over Portland. That was a pretty cool thing.
Oh, yeah, it was.
It was really attractive. I didn't do it, but I
It
know people
was,
who did, and the stories they said It was pretty cool.
It was a nod to Nightmare Before Christmas. It was that, or Coraline.
Coraline, yeah.
Coraline.
But I had gone to, I don't know if you've been to Drumheller, it's in Canada, but it's the dinosaur place. But in the town, it has all these different shapes of different dinosaurs all over. And so we went over, all over the whole town and took all the pictures of them, because my daughter's a dinosaur freak, and so that's her thing, and so we did that. But it'd be nice here to have different things that represents our city and the history of our city, and then, you know, even in historical society, we were talking about having like plaques that tell a story on some things, you know, like a historical walk, you know, because people who are really into history, that's their thing.
Yeah. We're
And-
smiling
and
because
you'll
we've
bring
also
that.
talked about it.
Talked about it.
And we may or may not have talked to Chris at the historical, we were like, hey, what if we partnered together on this?
That's a good idea.
Yeah, no, these are all super great suggestions and ways that we can add really nice placemaking to it. I don't know that any of the developers who I don't know that any of them are gonna be proposing that. I think that these are the things that we come up with these ideas and we say, help us do, you know, we want this incorporated. I don't know how many of them are gonna know all of the nuanced stories, but I think we get to be excited about them and we get to tell them and help get them excited about it too, you know? And ask them to help us get creative with some of these things and to think of these things. So I love that we will come up with some suggestions and maybe we can talk about ways that they can incorporate art in that too.
They have to read Sharon Nesbitt's book before they make their proposal.
Yeah, the whole book.
You have to know the history.
Yes, and I actually did, you referenced that heavily when I was writing the history section that I put in here. Made sure to go through and double fact check it in Troutdale, so. Yeah.
Do we have a historical book that,
I do.
that is actually
I do.
Troutdale?
I bought it at the historical, my daughter bought it when she was downtown.
Well, you know what, you're right, I think we do.
Yeah, it's,
I hate to lose those stories that
yeah,
Sharon's always told.
yeah, so Sharon wrote it, I do wish it had an index, that's the one thing, that it doesn't have an index, and so whenever I'm trying to quickly find something, I have to remember how she categorized it all
Yeah.
instead, but I think it goes till 2015 or 2007 maybe, because she wrote it as maybe a centennial thing, so it could be updated maybe with some other more recent things too, but it's very helpful, very interesting, really good story. I think that the Historical Society might still have copies that they sell, but I'm not totally positive on it.
I have a copy that was sold to the Historical Society. It was actually at the visitor center that they purchased it. Not at the visitor, somewhere here in Troutdale, because she gave it to me for my birthday, because she
Oh,
knows
nice,
I'm a history
yes.
buff.
Yeah, I have a copy that sits on my desk that I reference
It's on
a
the
lot.
coffee table.
Any other suggestions, changes, requests?
It was nice reading it. This Shirley, you did a really good job.
Yeah, you did a great job on
Do you wanna talk about next steps?
Yeah, well, so we have some changes still to make to this, but the URA is meeting,
The council would like to view this, November 12th.
is that gonna be a joint meeting, or is that just gonna be them and the TCAP can attend?
I think it's just gonna be them and TCAB can attend.
Okay, so if you'd like to attend that meeting, you're welcome to attend that meeting virtually or in person, I think it's gonna be both ways.
What day?
November 12th,
Tuesday,
Tuesday?
I believe.
So Diane says she's been waiting to be let in.
How long ago did she say
I can't attend that meeting. Sorry.
Oh, she even sent me a text.
7 o'clock, I assume.
We're done.
that? I was looking at the screen, I don't think she'd been waiting that terribly long, but I'm not positive.
Did she get in?
I just let her in.
Okay.
Yeah, she's on there.
I'm excited.
So November 12th is when they'll have that meeting. we're gonna put these changes in before that. We've talked about a couple of changes that we wanna make, especially to that, one pager sheet, and then also the data in that other section. I wanna make sure to have those changes in there as well. So we obviously won't have time to meet again before that meeting, but if you wanna see those changes, and if you do have comments on them, hopefully there's a public comment time when they can make that, you guys can make that comment. But I can also, when we send out the packet, maybe the URA, we can make sure to include sending it all out to you guys so that you can take a look
Yes.
at it ahead of time.
That'd be great.
That'd be great.
That would
And
be
let
nice,
us know.
because I would-
And just to clarify, the URA, I mean, obviously is city council, but is this the city council meeting at 7 o'clock, or is this before or after?
I think they usually do them after. I don't know.
Okay,
I think it's just on the council agenda.
okay,
They usually hold a separate meeting, but it's like it's the same people, so it's
I
like.
know.
right, but I guess I just
But I
wanna make
guess
sure I'm there at the right
time-wise,
time.
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll clarify
Or
what if
clarify.
it's
Okay.
before or if they're starting it early, cause sometimes they'll start the council meetings at 6 so that they can have the URA
Sure.
meetings at 8.
I didn't see that on the calendar, that's why I wanted to, okay,
Yeah,
that'd be great,
we'll,
thank you.
we'll clarify that
Cool.
and let you know.
Alright,
Also could be 6.
I'm hoping it's earlier rather than later. Yes, definitely. But yeah, so we'll make sure to send this out to you as well, so if you can't attend, or don't wanna attend and just wanna provide some comments on those changes, you can. And I'll try to call out with any other things that we change. If you do have inspirational photos or places that you're thinking of that you think would be good for us to reference or show a photo of, feel free to send it over so that we can add those in. I don't wanna like overwhelm the whole thing with those, but I do wanna include some, and I think that it'd be worth switching out this Hood River photo and the Portland photo, and we can at the very least fit four in that place.
cool.
So yeah, would like to get some different ones in there.
Plus, you're trying to create another page, right?
And I am
Another
trying, I do need to add another page. The location that I need the page though is just the tricky part, because I need it before the project goals section.
Right.
So it's gonna be in that overview section.
And
Maybe-
Marley, was that because
Maybe
you
this
added
becomes
this?
a blank page. You know, and then everything moves over one.
Yeah, we can figure that out.
Is it because you added this page?
No, that page was already there.
But you could, if you wanna put more on it, you could just make that a spread and it would push the other one more
Oh, yeah.
page.
So
Yeah,
either
that's what I was
making it a
saying.
blank,
Oh, is
Yeah.
that what
so
you're
he was saying make
Erica?
it like a 2-page spread for that info.
And then it'd push the other one to
Push
a
everything
spread
over,
also.
so
Yeah.
it becomes.
So
a
either
spread.
we'll do that, or we could also add a intentionally blank page
Oh, yeah.
on the back of the cover page.
Or some more
Oh, that might be
pictures.
easier, just put a logo on it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, good.
yeah, we'll mess around with it, we'll try to figure out exactly how to fit that in.
And could you, this page, the content page is a page of its own, and then blank on the back, and then you would open it up to overview would be the.
Actually, I think that that's probably the best
a
suggestion,
good-
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the printer knows the best suggestion.
Surprise.
So Diane, did you have any comments? See if she's here.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yep.
Hi, no, no comment, sorry. I came in really late, sorry about that. No, I think it's in capable hands, so I'll, rewatch this meeting and then I'll see if I have any comment I could send to, Marley and Erica.
Okay.
Guys, have a good night.
Thank you.
So the next step is the
Yeah, I know,
November
right?
12th, and you'll send us stuff ahead of time.
My bad.
Yep, we'll get these updates in and, we'll call out any changes that we make so that you don't have to try to
Remember.
sort through everything. Yes.
But I think we're on the right track.
It's looking good.
Yep.
Looking good.
Good. I am glad that you guys feel confident in this direction and that you like the changes that we've been making, and hopefully we'll include a couple more changes that'll look
We have one person running for
real
city
nice,
council
and then we'll
wants
be
to
ready to
turn
go.
it into a park. Yeah,
I mean, like, I'm all about parks, but come on.
they're saying we have one person running for city council that wants to turn it into a park, which would, we wouldn't need to worry about this, would we?
We already have a park over there, it's just going, we broke ground on it.
We did break ground,
Yeah, congratulations.
golden
Troutdale.
shovels.
Golden shovel. That was a great movie.
We have financial obligation. We have to figure out how to pay off. Just maintain it. Staff communication. Anything?
This Saturday is the Halloween
Oh, that's right.
event at the dog park. If you've got a dog, bring it in costume. Come to this
We
fun
did that
little
last
event.
year.
Yes, yeah, we're doing it again.
Which, the one-
We're gonna try to make it an annual
Imagine-
event, try to do it every
Imagination
year.
Station, dog
Yeah.
park,
Awesome.
right?
Yep, just to help promote the dog, keep letting people know that it's there. See dogs in cute costumes, it's always fun. I'll be there taking photos. There's gonna be a photo booth, and yeah, I think there's a little craft that you can do with your dog or something. Yeah, they're working on that right now, so getting that ready to go. That is this weekend on Saturday from 12 to 2. There will be a costume contest. We weren't sure if there was going to be, but there is now a costume contest. What else do we have going on? I'm always brain dead by this point in the night that I can never remember if there's things that we've got going on. We are gonna be working on the signs, some signage for the
Yes.
Sandy Riverfront Trail. So that's what we were smirking about earlier, because we're working on some historical signs with the tribes and with the Historical Society. We have 6 of them planned to go along the new trail, that will, we haven't mapped out our idea of how each of them will be laid out, but it's really like a timeline sort of a trail. So you get the early Native Americans, flora, fauna, the early existence of it, and then it moves into the first settlers of the area, and then the industry, the industry that was here, the farms, the railroad, the historic highway, there's a whole timeline. So we're gonna get started working on that. And working on our bike hub plans, and lots of other things going on right now that my mind can't think of.
Ray has that meeting.
Yeah, so the next meeting in November, we're gonna come and just give you an update of the Sandy River shuttle and downtown parking study.
Oh, okay, great.
I told you that, like,
Did you? I
weeks
don't
ago.
remember.
Oh, we're hitting up every single committee.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. My brain's already clicked
It's
off for
okay.
the night. Yes, so an update on the Sandy River shuttle feasibility study that we are working on.
Yeah.
Yes, that would be great. And the parking study, parking is part of that as well too, so.
It's the best downtown.
Yep, so we'll have the parking study info in there. Anything else?
I can't think of anything. Well, you're always more than welcome to give us a call or shoot us an email with any
Yeah.
questions.
Hopefully I'll be more awake by then,
I looked at that parking study and thought, this thing is already outdated. They should come at 5 o'clock in the evening.
Yeah,
Now that this place here is open. Because they talked about the time of day and how what percentage was in use and everything. And I'm thinking, come at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. This is a little different than what you proposed here, what you said. So,
Well, and then the other thing that's happening in Troutdale is the registering that disaster training
Oh, yeah.
on the 20th,
Yes.
which I have to sign up for.
The disaster preparedness class.
Mm-hmm.
on
For when the
November
hood finally
20th.
blows its top.
It's free. You can come, we'll have like little
The Adams, this one.
items for people that deal with disaster. I know, that's like the, like, I don't wanna
Come
talk
get our
about-
disaster gift.
Yeah.
There are, if you come and you attend, there's some sort of disaster preparedness tool that you will get for
Maybe
free.
like a hand cranked radio or.
Yeah,
or
I don't know that we
something.
know what the tool is yet, or
Yeah.
whatever it might be, but it's being ordered.
What's the date on that?
November 20th.
At what time?
Here,
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yeah, and you
That's
can sign up
November
ahead of
20th,
time,
not
yeah,
October.
through Community Pass.
I have 6 o'clock, but I don't know if that's correct. I have to double check that. It was in the, is it on the website?
I believe.
Because I thought I saw it in the Champion, but I thought
It
that
is
was
in
the
the
only
Champion.
place I saw.
I'll have to check.
Yeah, we'll have to double check that, but yeah, thanks for bringing up that class, cause it would be great to attend. All of the classes will be recorded. I say there's like 3 different classes, but the 2 classes are in different languages, so, you know, unless you speak other languages and wanna attend those other classes, which you certainly can. This is the one that's taught in English. It'll be recorded, it will be on the city's YouTube page, so if you can't attend, you can watch it later. I think it does ask that you register ahead of time,
It does.
yeah.
I just have to find the Champion in order to register.
I think it's on the Community Pass page. But we can double check that. Or, check the city's Facebook page, cause I think Kevin did a post about it too,
On Facebook?
I think.
I don't have Facebook. There's a reason I don't have Facebook. I was a campus planner. There's a reason why I do not have Facebook.
Okay, well, you don't check Facebook then.
I will check the Champion.
There you go.
That's
There you
my
go.
reference. I don't have any social media, sorry.
That's okay.
Is it City
We
of
forgive you.
Troutdale? Is that how it is, the City of Troutdale on Facebook?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, disaster preparedness seminar, Wednesday, November 20th, from 6 to 8:30 PM. Location is actually at the Sam Cox Building.
What's in San Carlos?
Mm-hmm. And the cost is free, but there is like a little click for you to register.
Okay. Yep.
On the webpage?
On the webpage.
Okay, no.
Alright.
Okay. Well,
Amazing, good meeting, great work, you two.
Nothing more from me. It looks really good.
Sure. I just wanna mention one thing. My brother was visiting from out of town and said that was making fun of the clock downtown for not being working, so. He, you know,
There's a clock.
my little brother, so, you know.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
you wouldn't know there's a clock because half the numbers are missing from it,
Yeah,
so-
it's I just
It's the
wanted,
remnants of
wanted to
clock.
point out that people visiting here think we don't have it together,
Maybe
cause
you
the
got
clock
hit by
tower
lightning.
is broken.
there's a good chance that they'll know
That could be
all-
one of the things you have to look for.
Only if we get to do the Back to the Future donations for the clock tower.
So what you're saying is the public art should be a wind-operated clock.
Ooh,
Right, there you go.
Oh,
Ooh, I like
it.
that.
Alright, that's all I
There
got.
we go.
So that clock is probably going away. They're probably just gonna put a window up there.
Oh,
and do
are
away
they?
with the clock. They were talking about digital. There's an office right below that, and, the sound of that motor, but they're trying to come up. They're still getting
Kinetic
bids.
sculpture,
They're still getting bids. They had somebody in there today looking at
really?
repairing that building. They keep getting prices and then they go get more bids. It's like,
How many more did
spend
they
some
need?
money.
Are they waiting for one that just tells them, we'll do it for free?
You know, the bids that they're getting now it's materials and time, because nobody knows what they're gonna get into once they open that wall up. It's just-
Yeah, I mean, it looks,
Yeah.
from the outside looking in, it looks like it's gonna be pretty bad when
Right.
they open it
Yeah.
up, so.
Yeah, there was a company there again this afternoon looking at it, so. And then there is the ribbon cutting this weekend for the pickleball on Saturday.
Oh, yes,
Pickleball.
grand opening of the pickleball
Yep.
is on Saturday, and I think there's another business I don't remember what the other thing is, never mind. Pickleball grand opening. Can't think of what the other things was.
Do I, no, thank you for the great work you do. This short, it was amazing for me to read. I didn't fall asleep. Sometimes it's so dry, I have to read it 3 times. But this was good. I mean, I liked it. It was visually pleasing.
Nothing for me, it was great, good meeting.
The pizza parlor isn't doing anything this weekend, are they?
No, I don't think so. I can't remember what exactly it was that I was thinking of, but I
Yeah,
feel like
wouldn't
I
think
saw
they would do
another,
both of them.
I feel like
the
I
same
saw
weekend.
another grand opening,
Which,
something or
is it the
other.
new pizza up there and
Godfather's is now
Yeah,
being.
Godfather's is a new,
It's the husband of the lady of the pickleball,
yes.
of one of the ladies, yeah.
And I think that's already open, I believe.
Yeah, it is,
Yeah.
yeah, they opened 2 weeks ago. Yeah, 2 weeks ago tomorrow. And I hear it's good pizza, so I haven't tried it, but people that have said it's good.
my
It's
son's
the
son
people that
too.
use Stone Skyline. So. Alrighty, do I have a motion?
Oh, I moved that we close the public hearing.
Zach, a second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Did you say public hearing?
Yeah,
She does.
we know it.
Surely.